Hello, everyone. My name is Christian, and welcome to my hobby blog. I am very excited to be doing review number 4 on the 31 days of Japanese films. And I'm very excited today because this one is a rewatch that I haven't done in a number of years. I want to say at least 5 years. I remember watching this at my school library when I used to rent DVDs from there, and I didn't really uh, hold on too much from that watch. I could remember a few of the scenes, but it just did not sort of catch me back then. But I'm very happy to say that this movie is much better than I thought it was, but I would not put it as a 5 star as I usually would. And what film am I talking about? I'm talking about Keisuke Kinoshita's 1958 film. We are jumping a couple of years from 1954 to 1958. And this is the film by that director called The Ballad of Narayama. This movie is absolutely amazing. This one's an easy watch, in my opinion. It is 98 minutes. It's an hour and 40 minutes almost. And it is just absolutely amazing. I really enjoyed this film on this watch. I love the performances. I love the sort of through line of this film, which I'll get into later. And I really love the thematic sort of scenes that we see throughout the film, where our characters are trying to accomplish a goal because of their beliefs, but there's always an issue going on, and there's a lot of kind of back and forth because this film is considered a period film, which translated to Japanese is considered a shidegeki. Shidegeki. I hope I said that right. I apologize if I did not. And this is based on a 1956 novella. So a couple years before this film came out, there was a novella that was that this movie adapted from, and that was written by Shichiro Fukazawa. And I don't really know anything about this writer, but apparently he was very good because there were a lot of stories adapted from him, according to my very brief Wikipedia search on him. But this movie really explores this sort of legendary practice that was not really done in real life and our reality, but this was something that was sort of a concept in Japanese culture, and it is called the ubaste. Ubasute. I don't think it's ubasute. I think it's ubaste. And this is a practice where elderly people are carried to the top of a mountain and they are left to die. And this happens when they turn the age of 70. And usually the son or whichever sort of child is still around, they bring the elderly person up to the mountain. And this movie is slow build to that, to us finally scaling this mountain. And I really love the framing of this movie because the title of this film is The Ballad of Narayama. The mountain is called Narayama. And this is a ballad all about that mountain and about this practice. And what's really fascinating is that the movie starts off very kabuki-like, very play-like, where we start with a male singer in full-body black robes, and he bangs two big rods, I guess. They're sort of like drumsticks, but they're pretty thick, and he bangs them together, and he starts narrating what I just told you about what ubaste is. He narrates that to us, and he bangs the sticks again, and he continues to explain what this practice is. And when he's finished, he bangs it one final time, and he continues to sing, but we see a curtain behind him sort of fill itself and reveals a scenic landscape. And everything in this movie is practical. It is not shot on set. This is all studio made settings that we see throughout the entirety of the film. And by the end of the movie, we are sort of lulled into that because the sets in this are very well done. And it is fascinating how much care they put into this, because there's a couple scenes where our characters are just walking on a trail and they're walking by, and you can tell it's a set, but it's so perfectly done that your brain just does not sort of keep up with that. It doesn't even realize that it's a fake setting. It looks absolutely real. And I really love there are some scenes where the detail is just so fine, because our characters will be walking along a trail, and they will pass by hundreds of flowers in full bloom, and they look absolutely authentic. And I really have to congratulate whoever did the set dressing for this film, because oh my god, very well done. But the through line of the entire movie is that this is a literal traditional ballad that is narrating the events in the story. So you'll hear the man in the beginning of the film still singing and narrating the events of the film, and as he's talking about what's going on, our characters are doing those actions. So sometimes the grandmother figure will be scolding somebody, and in comes a guest. And you'll sort of hear the dialogue get drowned out, and you'll just hear the sticks bang, and then you hear the narration continue. And the entire movie is this way, all the way to the final shot of the film. And I really, really love sort of that framing in this movie. I think it's very interesting to do. But real quick, the father of modern Japanese folklore studies, his name is Kunio Yanagita. He concluded, I think in the 40s or 50s, before this movie was made, that Ubaste folklore most likely comes from India's Buddhist mythologies. And I thought that was absolutely fascinating. I'm a geographer professionally, and I really enjoy, at least when I was in school, I wish I could do some sort of work with this, but I really love the dissemination of beliefs and values through geographical space and through spatial space. And I find it fascinating that this practice came all the way from India. So I just really enjoyed that. Even if it's wasn't actually practiced in Japan, at some point in history this was practiced. And I thought that was absolutely powerful. And I'm also thinking of sort of the more rugged geography in that part of the world, because those are really old, or at least really new mountains. New mountains are a lot more craggy and jagged and a lot sharper looking than old mountains, because erosion happens. The older the mountain, the smoother the slopes will be. So that's why Everest is so rocky, is because that's one of the sort of the newer mountains, because it's lying right on top of two tectonic plates, and they're pushing up and they're going up. But I really love that sort of thinking of, or sort of the rabbit hole you can go down, where you're thinking of this film in an Indian context and thinking of those really large mountains and thinking, wow, like what the characters have to do in this film, carrying their loved ones up Narayama, that's probably a walk in the park for these people who were doing this practice in India. And I find it absolutely interesting and fascinating that this was happening, and I love thinking about this sort of stuff. I'm a geographer at heart. That is my main personality outside of movies and books and all that. I've already said that all of the sets in this film were created by man. It's not all natural. They didn't shoot on location. They shot in a studio. And I really love the final few shots of the film because once everything has sort of fizzled out in terms of the climax, we are now into falling action or falling, whatever it's called. We're at the conclusion. And we finally, after our character leaves the parent or the grandparent on the mountain, they're walking down the mountain, and suddenly they are on location on the mountain. I'm not sure if it's a real mountain, Narayama, but I'm going to assume it is. But they actually show these really mountainous regions as our characters walking down the trail, and you sort of hear the sounds of nature. Everything is just natural again, and our minds are sort of shocked seeing this transition from man-made sets to the actual real deal. And I find it to be a very fresh breath of air when watching the movie because I'm very particular and always focusing in on the details. I'm very details focused, and so I always had that in my head, like, oh my gosh, these are not real, locations. They built this, and I'm trying to find sort of the cracks in the wall, per se. But it is a breath of fresh air to finally see the sky in its full glory because it's only just a 2D painting for the entire film until this point. So that is definitely a big emotional release at the end, and this is why this movie is so great in my opinion. As I talk about it more, the more I'm convinced that this movie's a lot better than I gave it credit for on my first watch. So, and one thing that was really fun that I was not expecting is that we have a character named Oren. I'm trying to make sure I pronounce it right. I don't like screwing up names, but Oren is played by an amazing actress, one we've already seen, and her name is Kinuyo Tanaka. If you don't remember her or did not watch my previous videos in this series, she was the main actor for The Life of a Haru by Kenji Mizoguchi. And this is only a couple years later. She died in the 70s. I think I said that she died recently, but I think that was somebody else. I can't remember exactly, but she was in her 40s when she made this, or when she acted in this film. And she's playing a almost 70-year-old, and she is convincing as hell. I kept forgetting. I had to look it up at some point because I was just so convinced, and I was like, how old was she when she made Life of a Haru? And finally I looked it up, and I was like, wow, she was in her 40s when she made that and was just only 4 years older for this film. And her performance is so good in this one, and she is very distraught during this movie because she actually has a full set of teeth. And her goal is to go up that mountain with basically no teeth because she feels like she's a unlived elderly person, because a lot of the elderly people that she's interacting with and who she knows, a lot of them are missing teeth, and she's not. She has perfect dentures. And it's really interesting how this is sort of a thing that she struggles with over and over throughout this film. You see her biting on rocks throughout the movie, and sometimes she just really just goes at it with her teeth. I really hope that the actress did not break her teeth during these scenes, because she's chomping hard on these rocks that are about this big. She's just and I'm amazed if I find out that her teeth did not break during this, or that she used fake teeth. But there's even a song that is made that her really annoying grandson makes, where he's singing about her 33 demon teeth because no human could keep that many teeth by that age, and so he's calling her a demon, and she really gets frustrated with him. And his father, who is Owen's son or grandson, I apologize, but her son sort of beats up his own son because he is just completely shit talking his grandmother. And this song actually spreads through the entire village. And there's even a scene, I think, around the middle point of the movie where they are having a festival, and like the entire town is singing the song because it's catchy. And they don't know who the subject of the song is. They have no idea. And so the father, or the son of Kinuyo Tanaka's character, he's just trying to stop this song because he's so offended by it. And it is really funny to me. It's really funny to watch, in my opinion, because he is really frantic and telling everyone, but they have no idea. They do not have the context. While the first time that we, the audience, hear this song, he is singing it in the hearing range of his grandmother, and she's getting pissed off about it, and he runs off. The son is like, hey, what was he singing? Oh my god, those lyrics were awful. I'm going to make sure that he does not spread the song. And by the time he finds his son, he's already teaching a bunch of kids the song. And so they go run off, and they're singing it to their parents. So all the parents are like, hey, that's a great song. And now the entire town in the middle of the film is singing this song. And the grandmother's like, oh my god, like, this is embarrassing. My grandson is just the worst. And it's funny. It's played for laughs. It is not as horrible as I may have been describing, but it is played for laughs. So there is some humor in this film, which is much appreciated because this film just really deals with a lot of different heavy topics of elder abuse, death in the family, accepting death of family. It's a really emotional film, and I love it. And what's funny is that, not funny, but there's a point in the film when Oren meets Tama, who is her new daughter-in-law. Her son is actually a widow, and his wife died at some point. We don't really know the details. And so the mom, Oren, she really wants her son to have a wife before she dies and goes up that mountain. And they're nearing the end of the year because they go up in the spring. And she really wants to go when it's a little bit cold because then she won't feel herself die. She'll just fall asleep with hypothermia and just cold weather related injuries. So she'd rather just get numb from the cold and die. And that's really what this cover is. It's a bit of a spoiler when you read the biography, or not the biography, but the text on the back. You can definitely predict what's going to happen in this film, but that is the cover of the box art. And it's a very beautiful shot. This is exactly how the shot is, and we kind of pan out while she's just laying there in this position, and it's very well shot. I just really love the cinematography in this film. It's really great. But she meets her new daughter-in-law, Tama, and Tama is talking about how she would have carried Owen to the top of the mountain. And Owen gets teary-eyed because she is really looking forward to being carried up that mountain. And her son doesn't want to do it, and her grandson she doesn't even like. So she's like reluctant to go up this mountain because she's going to die. And she's fine with dying, but she doesn't want that pilgrimage up to the top of the mountain to be one where she's unhappy and just annoyed by her grandson especially. But her son does take her up that mountain. But when she hears her daughter-in-law say that upon the first time meeting each other, she gets teary-eyed. It's a really powerful scene. I really love that scene. I wrote it down because this is sort of the point where Owen becomes really sort of accepting of her fate now. She is now comforted by her new daughter-in-law, and she's really happy for her son to finally have found a really great woman and who will hopefully not die, or at least leave him. And one thing that's really cool about this film is that it really effectively uses color filters on the camera. There's a point in the film where we get a really awesome red color filter because Olin, she eventually does bust her teeth out of her mouth. And her son sees her, and she's out in public looking for him and being like, oh, I'm ready to go up the mountain. Like, please take me now. Or please come home so we can start talking about it. And her entire mouth is bleeding. And there's just chunks of teeth in her mouth, and they're falling out while she's talking. It's just really sort of horrific because this is a wonderful moment for her. And yet, when you're looking at her, it's like, oh my gosh, like somebody really like hit her in the face with like something hard and just a weapon. And like, is she okay? And everyone's freaking out. One woman screams when this character comes up. And it's really cool, sort of this dynamic between how she's feeling and how other people are perceiving her. I find it really fascinating. But another point in the film, but her son does see her, and he picks her up and sort of puts her on his back, and is piggyback riding her back home. And this entire time, the music is playing really like intensely on flutes and on stringed instruments. I assume a violin was involved, and it's playing a really high string, and it's like really hurting your ears. And on top of this, the screen is fully red. It looks like a giallo film. And he's running through the forest, and it's just really frantic, and he's breathing hard, running through the trees, everything. And they get home, and their filter just goes away, and everything's back to normal. Everyone's happy, everyone's home, everyone's safe. And later in the film, we get a similar one with a green filter, where they're in a night scene talking about something. I can't remember off the top of my head, but the point is that they're using a green filter now for at night. And it was giving me giallo vibes, which I really like. I love giallo. And it was really funny to see these color filters in a 1950s film, because it's not until another 15 years, maybe, until we get sort of the Mario Bava proto giallo films that really heavily utilize the coloring on the filters. So I really enjoyed that aspect of the film, and I really want to. This video is not as long as the other ones, and I apologize if you were expecting that, but I do want to end off on one quote that I found about this film, and especially about this Criterion release, because this one came out in 2013, and so it's been about 10 years, and I saw it on DVD, so to me, this is a new restoration. Slant Magazine, author is named Jordan Cronk. He called Kinoshita, Keisuke Kinoshita, the director, a less celebrated practitioner in the Shidegeki period films genre. And this next part is all quotes. So, Kinoshita takes one of Japan's most chronicled cultural tools, kabuki theater, as a stylistic blueprint to interpret both a work of literary renown and a legend of ancestral impact. And yet, for all its solemn reverence, both spiritually and socially, is one of the era's most radical experiments, shot exclusively on stages, save for one brief final scene. The film consolidates two distinct mediums, theater and cinema, into an analysis of both aesthetic functionality and affinity. By not masking his chosen conceptual conceit, and indeed by heightening it, Kinoshita is free to explore the formulations and possibilities of both modes of presentations. My God, that is such a perfect quote to end on, because it is that, and it's even more than that. This film is so well done, and I implore everybody to go see this one, whether at the Criterion release or on streaming, if it's anywhere on streaming. But this movie is just wonderful. The more I talk about it, the more I feel better about me giving it a 4.5 stars on Letterboxd, because I don't think it's a 5-star, but it's such a strong 4.5 star. This one is one of the best sort of underrated Japanese films, and I'm very happy that this one sort of ends out the 1950s section of my series. The next one we are doing, I think, is 1960, maybe 1961, and that one is one that I just saw recently that I really love. I've talked about the subject of this film many, many times, and I'm very excited to share that with everybody. But first, we have to watch the film, do the supplements, get the notes, and film it. So thank you, everybody, for watching, and please have a great rest of the day.